You know, a lot of people are not going to want to leave the United States after this World Cup. There have been so many people that have come here, especially from like England and Scotland, that have Japan.
We don't want to leave. We don't want to go. I'm asking them to get a spare bed for one evening more. If anybody wants to sponsor me, I can stay here for a year.
If I can bring all the Scots here in New England or the East.
Well, the time has come. It's time to leave the United States once again and go back to Scotland. I'm not going to lie. As much as I'm going to miss being back here in the US and how much I've loved being here.
When Europeans arrived, they detested America. They dubbed their soccer a joke and made fun of the food, the phony grins, and the boisterous crowd. They anticipated animosity. Rather, the World Cup exposed a nation that was boisterous, giving, electrifying, and utterly addictive.
Every nation outside of the US, their fans have come into the US and got to experience these like real niche, truly like American experiences.
It can be summed up by what I've heard the most. What has been most consistent, Stephen, is they've said they've been lied to by the media. They basically have been told that the American people are, violent and that there's a lot of crime here.
Seriously, do not want this World Cup to end at all. It has been absolutely incredible so far. We've got about 7 more games to go, 7 more thrilling events, 7 more opportunities to get behind your team.
It was nothing like the nightmare they had imagined. The energy, the strangers applauding with them, the unadulterated exhilaration. Now that the last whistle has sounded, the majority of them are unwilling to take a plane home. They paid us a visit. They now want to stay forever. They were simply taken by America.
You know what Spain looks like after winning the World Cup. This is it. People started a GoFundMe to help keep me in America whilst I was here, which took me to Boston. And just before I boarded my flight to Boston, I got a message from the White House to say that I've been invited to Freedom 250.
Gotta show you this because it looks like just another door to the entrance. But when you walk in here, look what happens. You're already inside the stadium. It looks like in a freaking shopping mall.
Unbelievable.
It doesn't look a stadium. It's AC inside.
America was traditionally seen by Europeans as a noisy, chaotic place that would never feel like home. They had already purchased a return ticket for the earliest trip back to Europe, and their suitcases were filled with doubts.
Massive. It is huge. The air conditioning is amazing. The screen is amazing. I'm even getting cold air blowing up my bottom. I love being in America. I love American cars. I love American roads. And
So many of you reached out after my last video that I had to say this one more time. The media has been lying to you about America, and the World Cup just proved it. For years, European and Canadians have been fed the same narrative.
In Europe, the past few weeks, off and on, we've had Europeans all over the US enjoying the World Cup matches. And you've seen them loving America. They're talking about how great it is. You've seen all of the social media coverage. They're drinking unlimited refills and putting ice in everything.
They have been making fun of large American portions for years, according to the interview. The inexplicable tendency to make everything seem festive and the incessant grinning at strangers. For them, soccer was a joke in America, played in between tailgates and baseball games. When they arrived in the US for the World Cup, everything they believed to be true began to fall apart in the most amusing way imaginable.
You were amazing.
I love the parade with the bagpipes from here to Fenway. It's so nice that you understand that people are actually enjoying us being here. At the same time, the Scots have also enjoyed coming here too.
The people just took to the Scottish like cousins, I don't know, just like...
The food maybe? It's really different from back home.
Yeah.
So we have tasted a lot of stuff like Dunkin' Donuts and all the good stuff. The size difference is really big.
I would say that they actually talk to people in the subway and that kind of stuff. That'd be really cool.
Yeah.
This World Cup is really exposing how bad media lied about America. I'm seeing all these people from different countries coming here having a ball. I'm seeing a young man.
The first shock slapped them square in the face as soon as they got off the plane. Americans didn't appear to be at all unfriendly. Rather, without expecting anything in return, random strangers helped with instructions and even carried baggage. Genuine joy greeted Europeans who had braced themselves for chilly shoulders. They saw how every area had become a celebration of flags and colors from all over the world as they strolled through cities hosting matches. Fans singing in languages they hardly understood, street cuisine from every continent, and music filled the streets where they had anticipated a sterile commercial experience. They were aware of the irony that the nation they had written off as having a flat culture was hosting the largest international celebration they had ever seen.
They're realizing how big everything is, how much freedom we have, all the different foods, the cultures, everything here is amazing. And they don't want to go back. They don't want to go back to England, to Scotland, to Ireland. They want to stay.
I think this World Cup has been amazing. I think it's brought the world together. I think it's brought a lot of joy, a lot of peace, a lot of harmony, and it's just brought smiles to everyone's faces. USA has done such a good job of hosting this one.
There, America, you are doing things different than we used to in Europe. Looks like I'm at a freaking train station or something. Look at this! Look at this! Let's walk to the front and see where...
As the competition got underway, Europeans realized that American spectators added a unique vitality to the matches. Instead of the calm observation and courteous applause they had anticipated, they witnessed entire stadiums humming with anticipation. Even when their side was losing, fans chanted with astonishing inventiveness, painted their faces, and dressed in absurd outfits. The speed with which Americans picked up the game and customs impressed a group of European tourists who had previously mocked American soccer expertise. They saw family arrive with coolers full of food, which they freely distributed to anyone in the vicinity. As they came to understand that this hospitality was just how many Americans behaved at significant occasions rather than a performance, the irony in their private discourse gradually faded.
But even then, the US is like almost not a real place in our eyes. It's like it is a movie. If a country was a movie, it's the US. Like, it's a video game.
They read it online, they never actually went. Then the World Cup came and millions of people who had never set foot in the US suddenly showed up. And you know what they found? Friendly people, incredible energy, stadiums that blew their minds.
For these guests, the food issue was a constant source of amusement. After long days at games, Europeans who had made fun of enormous American meals found themselves waiting in line for enormous burgers and loaded fries. What they had previously deemed excessive turned out to be ideal fuel for traveling miles between stadiums and fan zones. They encountered flavors they had never encountered at neighborhood barbecues close to venues. They also spent their evenings jokingly debating whether Carolina pulled pork or Texas brisket was more respectable. The coffee shops were open until late. Throughout the days of doubleheader matches, the portions kept them full, and they started to get why Americans appeared so joyful. It's hard to remain skeptical for very long when you eat so well and get encouragement from strangers.
Talking about the food, how good it is, how many options there are, how big the serving sizes are. I saw one guy that was completely shocked that you didn't have to get a license to own a TV and then get approval for what you had to watch on that TV, that you could just turn it on and have access to it.
All right, so there is something about Walmart in particular that is just like fascinating to European tourists. And the videos that World Cup fans from other countries have been posting about American culture have been both
right now. There's all these Americans are here for the World Cup, and they're like going to a bunch of the like U.S. staples, and their minds are just being blown. I would say like the three winners, like what the European mind is just loving: Buc-ee's, Waffle House, and Ram.
They were unprepared for the additional layers that emerged when they traveled between host cities. They observed how Americans managed the crowds with unexpected humor and patience while riding buses and trains full of foreign enthusiasts. Instead of complaining about a delayed train, there was an unplanned song. The pandemonium made Europeans, who took pride in their efficient public transportation, chuckle because it felt more human and somehow worked. They strolled through neighborhoods where World Cup fever blended seamlessly with local culture in places like Miami, New York, and Los Angeles. They joined dances they hardly knew at late-night street gatherings, where they were greeted like old friends and given cool drinks. Moments from the contests themselves far exceeded their expectations. They observed as whole sections of the stadium came together in support of players, regardless of their country of origin, generating intensely emotional environments. They began to wonder why they had ever denigrated this version of the beautiful game because of the brilliant signage, the wit in fan chants, and the way people celebrated minor successes. During this competition, Americans watched more than simply soccer. They welcomed it with the same fervor that they applied to everything else.
Driving for 5 minutes now and I can't wipe this smile off my face. I'm driving a Ram truck in America. Like, look how sick this is. Country music on the radio. Oh, go on, look. I'm going to Hooters in a Ram truck.
I bloody love driving in America. It's such a pleasure. It's such an absolute pleasure. We've had to change our car purely because we needed to, the old car had a service, but we've got this Jeep Wagoneer.
This is a high school stadium facility in Texas. In England, this would be a professional setup.
We owe apologies to America because their football stadiums are so much better.
The cultural surprises continued to arrive in pleasant waves between bouts. Europeans visited parks and museums where history blended with contemporary art in unexpected ways. They discovered sites that were on par with those back home while hiking paths close to host cities. Surprising depth was revealed during conversations with locals. From insightful conversations about life and travel to fervent debates over food and music. After years of more reserved conversations with Europeans, the continual smiling that they had before deemed suspicious began to seem pleasant. Their scenario became even more hilarious as they started contacting pals back home with pictures and stories that were almost too good to be true. Self-deprecating jokes about how incorrect they had been gradually replaced the sarcasm they had brought with them at the start of the journey. After a particularly exciting quarterfinal, a number of them convened on a rooftop terrace overlooking a lit-up metropolis one evening and confided in one another that, despite all of their prior preconceptions, this location felt oddly familiar.
Like, you've seen all the videos of like Scotland fans taking over like Dallas or Boston or wherever and like partying with bagpipes in like the Lower East Side in New York here. Just
They found are very, very welcoming Americans. They're loving the food, they're loving the scenery, they're loving the spirit that Americans are getting into, even though Americans have never been into real football, which they refer to, of course.
Amazing to see people from all over the world come to America to experience many different states, to get to meet the great American people, and to just get to see and experience the United States for what it truly is. That is a country that...
There were even more surprises in the last few weeks of the World Cup. They witnessed the intensity of rivalry games, where tensions were high but sportsmanship triumphed in exquisite ways. In congested fan areas, they witnessed deeds of compassion as supporters of rival clubs swapped food and anecdotes. They were more impressed with the event's planning than they would have liked to acknowledge. In addition to celebrating their own team's accomplishments with pride, Americans also showed admiration for foreign players in a way that felt sincere thanks to technology that made it easier for spectators to traverse venues and transportation. Arriving Europeans who were prepared to critique everything started making notes on what their own nations could take away from this hosting strategy. None of them had anticipated the intensity of the atmosphere when the last match came around. They witnessed street celebrations and fireworks until dawn. They discovered themselves in the center of it all rather than feeling alienated. Their doubting hearts were taken aback by the contagious pleasure, the loud music, and the genuine sense of solidarity.
Video of Europeans and Canadians saying, "I had no idea, I was completely wrong, this is nothing like what I was told." And that's exactly the problem. The media doesn't profit from you having a good experience. It profits from fear, division.
So I get back out of the taxi. I got another taxi straight back into Boston to come here.
I'm doing very great. I really like the vibes. I painted my face, painted my brother's face. Look.
I'm feeling great. I was the only one that was supporting Spain.
Nobody believed in him.
I picked the right one. I picked the right one. I'm from Dominican Republic, but
The true plot twist emerges now that the World Cup is over. The majority of these Europeans, who vowed that America would never feel like home, are frantically attempting to figure out how to stay longer. They have started looking at apartments in the locations that have captivated their hearts, canceled flights, and extended visas when feasible. Somehow, the area that they used to characterize as too huge, too loud, and too hopeful has become appealing. Every morning, they are still in awe of the fact that the nation they have long ridiculed now seems more thrilling than the comfortable routines that await them back in Europe. After long days of wandering, they find solace in the food that formerly seemed excessive. Their own days are now made happier by the grins they once mistrusted. Many amusing situations have resulted from this metamorphosis. Confused messages about American taxes and healthcare are sent to friends back home. While these Europeans gush about weekend road trips and national parks, they also chuckle about how the World Cup showed them more than just fantastic soccer. Rather, it showed them a nation full of contrasts that complement each other so well.
It's good to end with that, but we should be in New York tomorrow.
I feel like this was a real final, so I'm very happy and England deserved it.
We will never ever see a game like that again.
It was nail biting in the second half.
I don't know what to say. Crazy. I guess
if you take a look at what's happening in the United Kingdom, in Ireland, in France especially, these people have no interest in going back to those countries. Those countries have been overtaken.
In England, if you went into a fast food restaurant, most people would be quite miserable. In America, everyone's so happy to be there, so grateful that you're there, want to know about you, want to speak to you. It was a real breath of fresh air, really.
Yeah, I love hearing this.
The more time they spend together, the more they pick up on little things that strengthen their bond. They value the distance between cities and the flexibility to travel across environments that drastically vary in a matter of hours. They like debates in which people freely express their dreams without the cynicism that occasionally permeates conversations in Europe. They are exposed to cuisines through local markets and food trucks, which inspire home cooking ventures with varying degrees of success but fascinating tales. Even the sometimes unpredictable weather turns into an adventure rather than a hassle. These Europeans, whose return tickets burned holes in their pockets when they arrived, now discuss upcoming seasons and how they may invite family members to share in the same enchantment. They mock their earlier selves who believed they knew everything about a country they had hardly visited. And while the cynicism is still harsh, it now takes an inner turn. They tell tales of early blunders, such as misordering coffee or misjudging serving quantities. And because they show how far they have come in such a short period of time, these stories get funnier with each recounting.
Incredibly ignorant take, but I'm going to say it anyway. This World Cup has been so nice. I haven't seen an ounce of news for weeks. And to come home every day and be able to turn a game on,
I see another video on Instagram about a man from England begging to stay here. Basically, if you have some room in your house, let me stay. I don't want to leave here. It's too lit. The crazy thing is, the media just paints this bad.
But I do have a question. Does every small town have a circle or a square where there's a building in the middle and then there's a road that wraps all the way around? Because this one is exactly like that.
Through scheduled visits and video chats, they keep in touch with the American friends they established over those electrifying weeks. They've learned from the experience that home isn't always where you were born. Occasionally, you may find a sense of belonging in unexpected places. To win them over, America didn't have to emulate Europe. It just revealed who it really was: loud, giving, and full of surprises, and that was more than sufficient. These Europeans will tell tales about their entire journey from skepticism to affection for years to come. They are thankful that the World Cup made them look past preconceptions and joke about their initial haughtiness. They now realize that genuine travel transforms people in unforeseen ways, and that sometimes the location you are most resistant to ends up winning your heart. For many of them, their American journey is only getting begun, even though the tournament may have ended on the field. Perhaps the most startling story twist of all is that they wake up every day in a place that once seemed impossible to love and find themselves happy without even trying. What started out as a quick soccer trip has evolved into a romantic tale about a location they never intended to call home. And they are ecstatic to be so gloriously mistaken. Their social networks back in Europe have been influenced by this experience, encouraging additional tourists to plan vacations and gain new perspectives on the nation. These Europeans are aware of the reality that the World Cup exposed to them, so while the caustic jokes still exist, they now have a friendly tone rather than a cruel one. They are not turning back after being pleasantly surprised by America.
There is such a wide variety of truly American experiences in so many different ways that every nation has been able to experience, and it's so cool. It doesn't look
of these videos of all of these Europeans that have come to America and realized how much they've been lied to about what it's like here and about what the people are like. I have seen everything from people talking about the service industry and how they're shocked at the people working there that actually want to make.
And look, in my opinion, the World Cup didn't just bring football to America. It accidentally broke the most powerful propaganda machine in the world.
I agree 1,000% with her. And let me do you another one.
They have given up their previous expectations in favor of new experiences, and each day gives them more reasons to spend a bit more time in this intriguing, expansive, and surprisingly friendly place they now call home. They have substituted busy American diners, where servers know their orders and genuinely inquire about their day, for peaceful European cafes. They laugh at the overwhelming range of peanut butter varieties while navigating supermarkets the size of tiny villages. Friends who stayed behind in Europe are now greeted with packages full of American food and passionate offers to attend local league games that have the same energy as the World Cup and discover the pleasure of learning to cheer louder than they ever imagined. For many of them, what began as grudging appreciation has developed into complete dedication. They sign leases, look into job prospects, and even start little traditions like throwing soccer watch parties with backyard grills that combine their old rituals with new American ones. As they mocked how fast they adjusted to Sunday tailgates and mile-long holiday parades, the wit in their observations stayed keen. After years of comfortable regularity back home, they came to discover that the America they had previously written off as having too much of everything was actually providing just what they needed. The World Cup was the ideal catalyst, dispelling their misconceptions and exposing a country full of passion, energy, and surprising depth.